Welcome back to HPL, or the PvP Live Studios in Frisco, Texas. I'm joined by Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, and I'm Tana Grace. We just had match 2, or book 2, as Nathan come in. And we have our third book of the night coming up in just a second. It's going to be, A Tale of Two Cities versus The Art of War. No, I kid.
You got to keep the manuals down, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
One blunder I made, Tana Grace just will never let it go. I'm going to start pointing him out from him.
Please don't.
So, yeah, I mean, our last match, so good. We had the full 5 games. Both of those guys in needing to win situations. I mean, you talk about must-wins. Cranch sitting at 3-3, wants to stay on the winning track. Muzzy, towards the back half of the season, he found himself at 2-5 heading into this match. Needs a massive last 8 matches after that. Picks up his first win here. The first road to recovery of that record.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's very, very capable. If anyone is coming from 2-5 to making top 8, definitely Muzzy.
Yeah, if we take a look at the standings, we can see where both of these guys sit right now, as well as take a look at where our next 2 players are coming up. And once again, Muzzy, very rough start from him in HPL, but a little bit more focused in his last match, I would say. We talked about his cues in the interview. Everything he thought at every single step of the way.
Yeah, just great interview. I heard a lot of his reasoning behind all of his cue-ups. They were awesome. I love hearing that. Did his homework. See, Kranich falling to 3-4, not out of this yet. Still got a lot of matches ahead of him. But coming up, we have ErA and Dog. Dog sitting at the top of our standings at 5-1. ErA kind of towards the bottom at 3-4, but a win here not only puts him at 4-4, a lot of confidence going forward too, getting a win over someone like Dog.
Yeah, I mean, ErA had such a busy opening schedule for HPL. He played, I think it was 6 matches in his first 2
first
weeks.
week and a half. He played 5 days in a row.
Yeah, and he was the one who's really kind of setting the pace in HPL. Didn't know how other players were going to tackle it, and Dog, kind of stuck to a more traditional approach to it and was able to go on a fantastic tear. I mean, he was 5-0 to start.
Yeah, and so what I want to do here when we talk about these guys, I actually want to start talking about ErA. You've talked a lot about him, but what I want to talk about how he's going to match up against Dog here in this matchup. What we're going to talk about with these 2 guys is their mana utilization. Now, ErA, he's second to last in that category here in HPL at 76.8. You're going to see it here up on the screen in just 1 second. Now, he's been one of the most creative players here in HPL with his deck choices and his card choices. So sometimes he's been a little all over the place. That can hurt you in your mana utilization from your decks. If your decks aren't super streamlined, sometimes you don't always have stuff to do at the right times. Now, this has led to some strange games where he hasn't been able to get anything going and has not always been able to use all of his mana effectively in every spot that he wants to. But when ErA hits or surpasses his average mana utilization, he is winning. He's winning over half of his games here in HPL when he does that. So look for him to use his mana very well, and it'll get him some wins here against Dog.
Yeah, plus ErA's been kind of patient in his games, been tending to play more of a reactive style, and honestly been likely the most creative player so far in HPL. I mean, last week we saw him play a Raging Morgan combo deck that kind of looked to the opponent like a Grim Patron, and I love that kind of creativity because it catches the opponent off guard. But, by the time they realize what's happening, it's too late at that point. Since ErA has been playing strategies that are so unique, I'd love to see him focus on that aspect in particular, sort of the modification side of things, where it looks like it's going to be one thing, and then suddenly it's something else. If ErA can continue to adapt in that vein, that's really where he can be dangerous, because you have no idea exactly what his strategy is going to be. With that, now the pressure on ErA to start turning the season around, you can see, and it's just in his face, he's very emotionally invested into how these matches pan out. Every single one of his games, you can see him reacting to the scenarios that he's in. He's going to be pushing himself in the max in these coming matches. He's going to have to get every single thing done. And so far in this tournament, he's had to face some very strong opponents, in this league. And Dog, no exception to that. Going to be easily one of his toughest opponents so far in HPL.
Yeah, like you said, Dog going to be a really tough opponent. And we look at him. He just took his first loss last week against Jab, but he's still coming in at 5-1. Now, he has the second highest mana utilization in all of HPL at 83.4. This is a notable increase over what he's been doing in his lifetime. His lifetime mana utilization is at 79%, and this is, it seems to me to be part of the reason why he's been playing so amazingly lately, not just in our tournament, in a lot of other ones as well. He's winning over 90% of his games where he utilizes at least 84% of his mana. That's right at his average. But he's not just winning when he exceeds his averages. When he's getting at his average or below, he's still winning 50% of the games when he isn't hitting such high marks. That is an unbelievable thing to keep going, and that's why he's having such a great year.
Yeah, Dog has been, kind of surprisingly one of the most flexible players so far in HPL. I mean, he's been picking up wins with all kinds of different strategies, and very often decisively doing so. You know, a really big talking point for Dog coming into HPL was namely his Druid play, and you know, sort of to a lesser extent his prowess with Rogue, another class that he loves to play. But he's been showing he knows the game inside and out. Sort of the biggest thing for me so far is that after 6 matches, his ability to adapt to his opponents has been fantastic. He said in an interview after his match with Zalay that he knew what strategies that he was going to choose. He included 2 copies of Acidic Swamp Ooze to fight against Zalay's weapons. That was a very big point for him winning that match. But sort of looking at that, players haven't always been able to find where he's going to be because he's the one who's adjusting better to his opponents. You know, he's been like Wata, my friend. You know, he's been and like playing on all sides of the game, whether it's aggro, whether it's combo, whether it's control. I mean, he's shown that he can flow or that he can crash, just like Water, my friend. Really punishing players for their predictability. You know, his diligence and study, that's been the big difference for him so far, that he's known his opponents inside and out, and you're seeing that in every single game that he plays.
Yeah, and he's going to have to play a lot of games here against ErA, and hopefully it goes the full 5. I want to see ErA strut his stuff here in this match, but when we start to compare the two and see if they really match up against each other, you can see it in their mana utilizations. Dog is second highest here. ErA is the second lowest. Now, ErA has a tall task in front of him. He's playing against one of the Hearthstone's top performers right now in all of Hearthstone, not just here in HPL. Now, he's been performing with Mage. He's been overperforming with Mage so far in HPL. ErA has. Let me correct that. Now, he's been winning over 62% of his games here with Mage, so maybe he's been playing a decent bit of that here against Dog, because it's got some pretty good matchup against some of the decks that Dog likes to bring. Now, Dog, even though he's coming off of a loss, remains one of the hottest players, not just in Hearthstone, just in the entire planet when it comes to this game. Now, he took 3rd place this weekend at the HGC Recharge tournament, so he's just continuing his winning ways over and over and over again. You just keep seeing more and more of it now. Since ErA is known for strange decks and cards at times, though, expect Dog to stick to his combo decks here today and his usual strategies, because otherwise it's going to be hard for him to know exactly what ErA is doing.
Yeah, I mean, sort of talking about that, and ErA in every single one of his matches continues to get a little bit more frightful for his opponents. He's been completely unpredictable so far, except for the fact that he's going to bring something that you don't expect. Now, Dog, on the other hand, he has kind of some of those same things going. The fact that he's been utilizing all sorts of strategies, that's got to put some sort of fear in his opponents. They never seem to know exactly what he's going to do when he's headed into a game. And every time I look at a match and see that it's difficult to predict those kinds of patterns, aggression kind of looks like the place that players should turn. If you cannot adequately adapt to your opponent, putting them on defense is likely a way to kind of get things back into your hands. Maybe Dog's figured out something about ErA though, but maybe ErA's figured out a new way to attack his opponents. At this point, I would kind of expect both of these guys to be finding an aggressive point to turn to, but there's no telling exactly how they've studied each other and how they understand that.
Well, how they've studied each other, how they understand it's going to help them win. And what I think Dog needs to do to help him win, number 1, don't try and pinpoint ErA. ErA can be all over the place with deck choices and card choices. If you try and guess exactly what he's going to do, you could be very, very wrong. So just play powerful decks like you've been doing all season, and it'll help you get a lot of wins. Second, just beat him up. ErA can struggle against combo decks. Sometimes he comes out to really slow starts. Sorry, you're making me laugh. Other times, he doesn't always have the right answers to handle exactly what you're doing at the right time. So if you do that and he doesn't have the right answers, it could be a problem. Just punish him for these kinds of things. Look to pick up fast and easy wins.
That's sort of been, I think, one of the strongest things that's been against ErA is people who want to turn on that aggression for him. And so sort of with ErA, what I think he's got to do to win this match is the first one is I think he's got to find a balance of creativity and known strategies. We've seen him play all sorts of stuff. And when his opponents kind of figure it out, they've tended to be punishing him for that. But when he's been going with the decks that kind of look like something else and then churn out a different attack plan, that's been winning for him, but at the same time, he can't continue to play wild and different things. There's a reason that certain strategies are known strategies. It's because they're very good strategies. Find a way to mix those two. And the second thing I think he needs to do is don't try to target Dog. Dog has been fantastically queuing up in his matches. You can't quite tell exactly what he's going to do, and so far, he's been getting the better of his opponents. If you're going to play control, that's fine, but look to have less of a silver bullet style strategy versus him.
Yeah, that seems like a great point for ErA and a good way that he could go to win, but I've got to pick Dog in this match. He's who I think is going to win. Again, like I said, he's just the hottest player on the planet right now. He doesn't have a lot of wins right now, but he seems to be top 8ing, top 4ing, or finaling every tournament that he's played in so far. He's 5-1 here in HPL, and I expect a 6-1 after this match.
You know, I got to go with Dog in this one, too. I think that one of the biggest factors for me is the way that these players line up stylistically. ErA, I think, was going to continue to play sort of innovative, reactive control decks, and Dog, I think, is going to punish him with big combo choices in that same vein. And I think that when you kind of line up those two decks against each other, ErA's going to give Dog all the time in the world to find the right combinations of cards.
Did we just agree on all the matches tonight?
It's one of the first times we have.
I think that might be the first time that's ever happened. Man, we can't bet your beard or anything going on forward.
Well, it's all up to kind of you guys now. Who do you want to see win this match, and how do you think that they're going to do it? You can get out there on Twitter and use that hashtag HPL. Tag PvP Live in the tweet and let us know exactly what you think. Maybe you'd like to see ErA play some more crazy choices. Wouldn't be a big surprise from him, but maybe you want to see Dog play some crazy choices as well. You can also head over to Facebook and like and comment on the page. Share your thoughts with us there as well. So now kind of getting down to the X factor here. Momentum-wise, ErA, you know, we saw his replay of game 1 here. He was able to pick that one up. You know, Super JJ and ErA, they had an unintentional disconnect, and ErA took that match. Game 1 versus ErA and Dog is getting underway right now. But Dog, he's coming off a loss here.
Yeah, Dog is coming off a lost to Jab, another great player here in the tournament. As you said, ErA, he got a game under his belt here already tonight. We actually started the show off with game 5 between Super JJ and ErA was able to pick that one up. So not only momentum, a little bit of confidence going forward as well.
Yeah, Dog going to come out swinging aggressively. I mean, you could just tell by this opening hand, this is an aggressive Warlock deck. And I saw a Flame Strike in ErA's hand in this deck, so this is a possibility. This is something like.
I was gonna say, this might be the Echo of a Deep deck, and it is. We've seen this from ErA before. This is what some people like to refer to as Flood Mage. You know, like they flood the board with a bunch of minions, use something like Echo Medivh to pick them all back up in their hand, and then you see a bunch of Molten Giants and things happening. So unless Dog wins a very quick early game, buckle in. This is going to be a long one.
Well, there's a Molten Giant added to this hand. There's a second Flame Strike as well, and a Doomsayer. ErA, this is looking wonderful for him so far.
Absolutely. Now, Dog, he's got a couple pieces of himself, ways to win this game pretty early himself. Got a great little early action hand here, and you're going to see him push for a ton of damage here. Like that he's being aggressive here.
Yeah, I do as well. You know, not only is it going to put pressure on ErA's mana, but it's also going to put pressure on his lifetime. So he's got to find 2 ways to attack this board position. Number 1, he has to fend off that pressure. Number 2, he has to also get something going on his own.
Yeah, no. Dog is a world-class player, so he probably, you know, at least thinks this is Freeze Mage. But if he's done research on ErA, he probably knows that this is Flood Mage already.
Yeah, he's got a lot of things to think about here, because frankly, if this is something exactly like an Echo Medivh deck, he's going to find himself in a spot where pushing too much damage is a negative thing for him. Doesn't want to commit, doesn't want to overcommit.
It's like playing against Handlock. You don't want to activate their Molten Giants too early.
Right. So he is going to get some signs of what this is pretty soon, but you know, it is kind of anyone's guess at this point. If ErA plays a Doomsayer quite this early, you know, this may really try to tilt the favor in something like Freeze Mage. You may think that there's a Frost Nova and a Doomsayer are going to follow this up. I mean, this is a really, really scary play from ErA this turn.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to have the Abusive Sergeant push through this Doomsayer here, and you can even add in a little bit of, you know, something behind this, something like Imp Gang Boss, maybe Flame Imp and Life Tap here, because, you know, just getting as many cards as possible is great as well, because his life total is not going to be super threatened early. When he dies, he's just going to get overrun in like 1 or 2 turns from ErA.
Going to be interesting to see exactly what he couples behind this. I honestly don't mind the Life Tap here in this spot because he's got the Flames to go along with it, and I actually don't mind the Void Terror on the Abusive Sergeant either.
Yeah, here's the thing. Making a gigantic Void Terror is actually a pretty decent play against ErA if he's playing Flood Mage. There's not a lot of ways for him to deal with what's going to be a 9/6.
It's a good play against Freeze Mage, too. I mean, this will force a... If ErA didn't have something like Frost Nova Doomsayer or Fireball here, that's a 9/6 that he's looking at. That's not easy to deal with.
Yeah. Absolutely not easy to deal with at all.
It's a lot.
And you see, ErA doesn't have anything like Fireball. This is also a good turn for Dog to do something like that because it's his turn 5. He kind of gets him off curve with the Fireball as well.
This is really gonna tip his ErA's game plan off as well. Dog is fully aware exactly what this deck's trying to accomplish at this point.
Yeah, and Dog can't like the idea of running this 9/6 here into the Sludge Belcher, you know, opening it up to even more removal spells going forward. But you have to do what you have to do here.
What option does he have at this point? Gonna add the Imp King Boss to his board, try to get as much pressure rolling as he can. And in the meantime, going to figure out exactly how he should be attacking. Now, does he want to put damage on the Haunted Creeper, or does he want to put damage on the Defender?
I think you want to put damage on the Defender of Argus here, not the Haunted Creeper. You want it to stay alive for as long as possible. You don't ErA to have the turn where you can pick it off with Hero Power and then do something like Blizzard or Flame Strike and pick everything off. Oh, Fireball drawn in like 1 turn a little late here.
Yeah, it's a little bit late.
But it's still very well.
Yeah, still totally reasonable, though. and Dog gonna have his work cut out for him here. ErA's still at 23, and he's got 2 flame strikes back behind this, so this is about to get really dicey for Dog. He's gonna have a lot of effects left behind with stuff like Haunted Creeper, but he needs to get the ball rolling here because things could get easily out of hand.
Yeah, now if he does get Flame Strike next turn, he does get to, leave over a lot of minions here if he plays like the second Haunted Creeper here. So I'm sure that is in the back of Dog's mind, playing around Flame Strike as much as he can. But the second one behind that is going to be very, very good for ErA as well.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be careful and mindful of exactly what he plays.
So many possibilities.
So hard about this one. Every single one of these games has been so important for Dog so far, and you see him tackle every single one like it's a brand new match, like almost as if his record doesn't exist. He just wants to win every single match that's in front of him.
Yeah, you're just seeing a completely different player this year out of Dog than you've seen in the past, and frankly, I love what I'm seeing. You're seeing a superstar in the making here. I feel he's going to have a great year going forward as well. Like, he's not even done yet.
Oh yeah, this is just the beginning for him. I do like going with Implosion here. This will force some sort of action from ErA. And in the meantime, gets the word that's likely something like Ice Block.
Oh, maybe Duplicate.
Yeah, it definitely could be Duplicate.
We've seen stuff like that in these decks before.
ErA's hand's getting a little bit heavy, but with 2 Flame Strikes behind this, I think he's got plenty of time to make something happen.
If he Emperor Thorson's this turn, you have to believe it's something like Ice Block.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. The Emperor Thorson, this is a very risky spot to be playing it, considering how much damage is on the board. He is going to go with Flame Strike instead, and I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that he's got another one back behind it. And Dog's going to have to figure out a way to fortify this board position, and I think that starts with something like Haunted Creeper and Void Caller. He's going to go with Knife Juggler, though, wants to get every point of damage he can.
Yeah, if he goes with like Haunted Creeper and Void Caller, it leaves him in the best position if something like a second Flame Strike happens afterwards. The Void Caller would put in, either the Flame Imp or the Void Walker, and then the Haunted Creeper would leave over a couple of extra minions behind. But what he's going to do here is just spam as much damage as he can into ErA as early as possible with this Knife Juggler.
I think this is actually like a board position where he doesn't mind getting Flame Striked.
Yeah, he's like, here you can have these like 2 cards.
Yeah, these are like kind of expendable minions. Some of these 3 of these are left behind. Haunted Creeper's going to leave more behind. This looks like a fantastic turn for him. But ErA, sitting behind an Ice Block, I think he's just totally comfortable with where he's at right now. He can play Emperor Thorson, and then moving into turn 9 has plenty of options to still get things done.
Yeah, he can make everything cheaper in his hand, plus he'll take some damage this turn. This will make the Molten Giant cheaper, the Antique Healbot cheaper, and allow him to go Molten Giant, Antique Healbot, Echo of Medivh.
Yeah.
That is a strong turn.
That's an okay one.
Yeah.
It's all right. Heal for 16, get Molten Giants on the board.
Or, do something like Flame Strike, Antique Healbot next turn is, not next turn, but, soon.
A lot of options in front of him. And he needs to be careful how he navigates this. This is where his options start getting extremely difficult, is because if he missteps at one spot, it can completely snowball things out.
Yeah, he's got to take his time here. I was going to say, there's a chance we see something like Molten Giant here as well.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. I mean, this just soaks up 8 points of damage. I think he's going to be totally okay with that. I mean, he doesn't know he's going to soak up 8 points of damage with a Power Overwhelming, but...
Yeah. Well, he is a start at it as well. Dog can...
What if this is Duplicate, though?
If this is Duplicate, if this is an Ice Block, I mean, is that actually 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14?
Yeah, I mean, it would be 12 if this wasn't Duplicate, but can he afford to risk whether or not it's Duplicate?
I mean, what position does it leave you in afterwards if you do this?
Well, if it ends up being Ice Block instead, your opponent gets Echo Medivh and gets to blast you out of the water.
Okay. That seems like a bad.
But if it isn't Echo Medivh, or I'm sorry, if it isn't Duplicate, you win the game.
I mean, so yeah, it matters if Dog wants to gamble here or not. No gamble, no future.
I can get behind that as well. But
I think Dog's gonna play it safe, honestly. But
I don't. Maybe he can't afford to play it safe.
Yeah, that is true. There's a chance he just can't actually afford to. All right, looks like we're going for it.
Oh wow! Here we go, boys. Damage is in the making for Dog right now. He wants to push for this win. You can see ErA shaking his head. He looks comfortable. That's got to be Ice Block, and it certainly is. And this situation could get dicey for Dog. Gonna add a life tap behind this, and the Ruby Neck's gonna be no help. And now ErA has plenty of time to make use of what's going on, but it's gonna start with an Antique Healbot.
Yeah, if ErA were to do some Echo of Medivh shenanigans this game, we're going to see some that we've seen for him before. Multiple Emperor Thorsons through the span of a game. We actually had a game here on HPL where ErA put into play 5 different Emperor Thorsons over one game.
Yeah, he has to stay alive through this turn, though. I mean, that's step number 1. So this could just be 2 Antique Healbots.
Yeah, there is a possibility of that as well, but then he's going to decimate Dog's board.
So he's going to start running over minions with both these. I love the double Antique Healbot. You can see Dog even kind of perk up a little bit when he saw that.
The Ushka look.
Yeah, Knife Juggler's got to go. It's just too dangerous.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, fully expects Knife Juggler. He's got 4 more cards in his hand plus a Haunted Creeper in play. You don't want some crazy things to happen this
Dog
turn.
needs 7 more damage if he wants to
Plus
win this
Implosion
turn.
would have been very good, yeah.
I mean, this has to be a turn, I think, where he's looking to actually take care of what's on the board, because the last thing he can let happen is a big Echo Mid.
Oh, he does pick up the Knife Juggler.
My
here.
gosh.
So he can Knife Juggler Implosion after, getting in some damage here, because he probably needs to run at least one or two of his minions into something here before he implosions, right?
Is Direwolf Alpha potentially better than Implosion, though? I mean, that's an interesting point.
Well, if he starts attacking now, you have to believe it's going to be Implosion.
Yeah, I do. I totally agree with you.
Well, plus he actually has the Haunted Creeper going forward as well here.
Juggle number 1.
He's got a lot of juggles plus an Abusive
Juggle
Sergeant.
number 2. Yeah, Abusive Sergeant's going to come in next.
Plus he gets something, another creature off of the Void Caller here if it runs into and has room. Like what he can do here is he can run the 1/1 into this anti-heal bot. Yeah.
He's got plenty of time to do this.
Yeah, he's got plenty
this
of time to
entire
do this.
board's going to be taken care of.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a great turn
Yeah,
for Dog if these
I mean,
juggles don't
look
have.
at ErA, though. ErA's staring at a Flame Strike right now. I think this is exactly what he wants to happen. Has to take out the Molten Giant. Can't let it live. And that lonely antique heal bot is going to be left by
Oh wow, he
himself.
doesn't have to use the Flame Strike if he doesn't want to here.
That is actually pretty darn massive at this point. He can play Explosive Sheep. He's going to Echo Medivh behind this.
Well, I mean, if he's going to Arcane Intellect, I would like to see him start his turn off by doing that and get all of the information now. There is something to be said about just using the Flame Strike so the anti-kill bot stays on board, and you get to pick it up with the Echo Medivh. There you go, ErA. Use the the Arcane Intellect first.
Yep, so Explosive Sheep. 3 points of damage across to the face.
Sludge Belcher here.
Isn't going to Echo Medivh either. Yeah, just going to Sludge Belcher instead.
Yeah.
Feels comfortable with Alex Straza and Sludge Belcher in his
I'd feel
hand.
comfortable with Alex Strazo, Sludge Belcher, Doomsayer,
I mean,
Echo Medivh here.
things just got super ugly for Dog in this spot. He
Ooh.
picks up Dr. Boom, though.
That got into play real quick.
Yeah, I mean, that usually does when you have 7 extra mana floating around and Dr. Boom in your hand. But now this is where ErA can just put 8/8s on the board and really start getting aggressive. And with that Frost Nova pickup, I mean,
Yeah,
he's
you're gonna
looking,
see an Echo Medivh
he's
here, I'm
looking
guessing.
almost
Or Frost Nova as well.
invincible this turn. Frost Nova, Dog down to
Yeah,
12,
this is gonna
too.
threaten. Yeah, this is gonna threaten lethal here, but Dog does have a Defender of Argus.
Void Terror as well. I wonder if you Void Terror and Defender of Argus it up.
What happens if you like a Nerubian Egg, eat it, and I say a Boombot maybe?
I think it's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah, you eat the Boombot here with the Nerubian Egg. And then Defender of Argus, yeah, the Dr. Boom, and because Dr. Boom needs to be bigger and better.
Yeah, but this is running straight into a Flame Strike. I think one of the last things that he wanted to see in this spot.
Yeah, he's still gonna have 2 Taunters left over though.
Does have 2 Taunters left over, but I think ErA's got more than enough action to really
Wow,
get things
draw
done.
Big
and
Game
a big
Hunter.
game hunter.
Wow, he could Big Game Hunt, Echo Medivh, and Flame Strike this turn.
That is not a joke turn. This is a massive turnaround for ErA. He's taken complete control of this game. Echo Medivh going to give him all of the cards he needs to make sure he can keep pushing.
Sorry, Dog's reaction was just great.
I mean, this game is all but over at this point. 2 Sludge Belchers behind this. The 5/7's going down. ErA's free to push pressure or start taking out minions. Everything is on his side of the board right now. He can allocate these resources however he wants to.
Yeah, we've
Dog
seen
is down
him-
to 12. I don't think he can win this game anymore.
Ooh, I'll say Ironbeak Owl's not terrible. We've seen him, we've seen ErA do this before, where he's gonna actually just play it as safe as possible from this point, because he feels like he can't lose. Plus, he has Alex Straza to gain some life back later in this game if he ever needs to.
So Ironbeak Owl in the 3/3 instead.
Yeah, it's an easier one to get through than the 3/5. Yeah.
So many possibilities.
Ironbeak Owl, Direwolf Alpha, then start chewing through this Sludge Belcher. This Boombot's going to have to do some work.
Yeah,
I don't
this
know
needs
if
to
he
be
can
a
do that much
hero
work.
of a Boombot here. Oh, he did
For
not
the
need that to
face.
happen. Yeah.
And that's not going to be enough. ErA has more than enough damage on board to get things done. He's just going to crash in. No BM from ErA, just wants to pick up his win and move on to game number 2. Takes a decisive game number 1. Things looked a little bit scary there for a moment, but able to keep his composure, has all the right tools to make sure he can handle the pressure the Dog's throwing at him. Echo Medivh, Antique Heal Bots, and Sludge Belchers. That'll get it done sometimes.
Yeah, you gotta love ErA. Always comes with some really cool, innovative deck. He won his first match of the night because he had Game 5 against Super JJ. Another great player here in HPL. Now he's up against Dog, out to an early 1-0 lead with Flood Mage.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen ErA proclaim himself the Archon Slayer. Can ErA become the Complexity Slayer? It's anyone's guess. If you guys want to see the recap of this game, you can head over to pvplive.net and check it out for yourself. The stats breakdowns, everything they played, how they've played their strategies, and what they've done in the past. If you like to brew up some decks, ErA is the player for you. Go check out his history and see exactly what he's played. These guys are now making changes to their decks. That's the HPL format. They can play whatever they want at any time. We do not restrict them in any way whatsoever. And when we come back, game number 2 is going to be getting underway. ErA finds himself in a 1-0 lead. Don't go anywhere, guys. You're watching Hearthstone on PvP Live.